Shame. Shame.
Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred We See Died Laughing, and I'm here today to tell you about my most disappointing books in 2017. I don't know why this is a video that I really look forward to at the end of the year. So I've managed to decrease this list down to 10 books. I did have 16 or 17 books on it, and I managed to scale it down to 10 to try and make it a little bit more manageable. But all of these books are just books that I just expected a little bit more from when I picked them up, and some of them I was really excited to read, and there were ones I really thought that I wanted to read, and for whatever reason they just really let me down. They just weren't what I thought they were, and I ended up really disliking them. So I'm going to start with a book that started off 2017 great for me because it was the second book I read in 2017. It was probably one of the worst books I read all year, and that was The 100 Lives of Lizzie Lovett by Sedoti. And this is one I had a massive rant on in my weekly review. If you guys want, I will link all my weekly reviews down below so you can go and see my full reviews of these every week. They will all be down below, as well as written reviews, and I'll also link my disappointing reads of 2016 somewhere up above as well if you do want to check out my disappointing reads from last year, if you weren't around then. But yes, this book I just really didn't like. I really hated the main character. I just didn't think she was a very nice person. She kind of complained about not having friends, and I thought that it wasn't the fact that no one wanted to be friends with her, is that she was so unpleasant. I couldn't blame people for wanting to stay away from her. I thought there was some problematic aspects in this one in terms of the sexual relationship between the main character and an older guy who she gets involved with. I just felt like there was a slight issue of consent there. There was just something about it that left a bad taste in my mouth, so I just really didn't like it. I just thought the entire plot was just farcical. It just didn't make sense. I just really hated it. So I think I gave this one 1 out of 5 stars. I really didn't like it. The second book I talked about briefly last week, I think, in a video I recently did, and this is Changeless by Gail, which is the second book in the Parasol Protectorate series. And this one I did enjoy, except for something that happened at the end of it where something was revealed and there was a character reaction which I just really hated and basically made me want to punch them in the face. And yeah, but I do have the third book and I will be giving that a go because I have heard, especially after my Grinch book tag, which is the one I did mention this in, everyone told me who had read it and told me to just continue on, and that, things get a little bit better, and that they do understand why I would be really angry at this character. So it is a book series I am going to continue on with, but this book in itself was just ended up being disappointing, for me the characters ended up disappointing me for particular reasons. The third book is Idaho by Ruskovich, and this is a book that I have seen pop up quite a lot this year. When I first heard the premise of this, I thought it sounded fantastic, and it is about a man whose wife butchered his 2 daughters for no reason whatsoever one day, and it's the story has been told a good few years in the future. He has a new wife, and she is dealing with his ill health, and then we're getting some point of views from the mother who is in jail. And I thought this was going to be a proper kind of one of those thrillers that would just make your hair stand up on end and would be hard to read, would be really, I hate to say this, but when you're thinking that it is a book about someone who has butchered people, you're kind of thinking, oh, there's going to be maybe really gory scenes in it. Might be hard to read at times, but maybe I won't be able to tear my eyes away and that kind of thing. So I was kind of going into it expecting this kind of blood-curdling tale, and it wasn't at all. It was a very quiet book, and it wasn't, I feel first of all I didn't get some of the answers that I had wanted going into it, and at the same time I just found myself getting bored of it at times, which, considering the story, was pretty disappointing. Number 4 is probably one of my most disappointing. It's probably the top, I think it's the second most disappointing of the year. Almost my first, but I think it's my second, and it is The Other Half of Happiness by Ayisha Malik, which is the second book in the Sophia Khan series, which the first book is Sophia Khan Is Not Obliged, which would have been one of my favourite books of the year. And this one just, oh my god, I hated it so much. The more I think about it, the more I hate it. The more I think about what happened to the story, and the more I think about just how the characters just fell apart, and how loads of things that were built up in the first book fell apart in the second book. It just infuriates me, and characters I really loved in the first book were just destroyed in the second book, and I just couldn't figure out why. There was just so many things that happened that just didn't make sense to me. And I just, like, it was literally like watching a car crash in a way, and I just really didn't like it. I really, really didn't like it. It just really, really almost ruined. I will, if there is eventually going to be a third book, I will read the third book. But I don't know, it definitely put a dampener on this trilogy series, whatever it's going to be for me. I just really didn't like seeing these characters I loved being torn apart the way they were. Another book I talked about briefly last week was Sweet Pea by C.J. Scoose. This is another one of these that I was expecting this really crazy thriller that was going to keep me on edge and that I was going to just not be able to like put down, and I ended up getting this like really weird tale about a really weird girl with like all sorts of issues. Like if I had to try and explain this book, it's like, it's a thriller, but it's about a woman who basically, she wants to be a serial killer, or you know, she's on her way to being a serial killer, and it's almost a little bit like You by Caroline Kepnes with a female protagonist, but it's not told in second person either. But I feel like the way this is written, it's supposed to be in the way that with You and Caroline by Caroline Kepnes, the reader ends up really kind of falling for Joe and really ends up almost befriending him in a way, and you're almost making excuses for the terrible things he's doing. Like, that's the magic, I think, of You. Where with this one, it didn't work that way. This one, the main character just left me repulsed a lot of the time. I didn't like the way she talked. I didn't like her actions. A lot of stuff she did were just stupid. Like, she wasn't a clever killer, and I don't know how she got away with a lot of stuff for as long as she did. And yeah, I was just left being like, honey, please stop. So yeah, I really didn't like that one at all. Number 6 is Hold Back the Stars by Katie Can. This one was one I thought was going to be like a really cool science fiction story with a little bit of romance, and what I got was this massive romance story with a tiny bit of science fiction. So I just went into it thinking I was expecting something else, and you know, so I was disappointed with what I got. I found myself getting exasperated by the characters, about their ups and downs with each other, some of the decisions they made. Like, I just didn't care about them. Like, I think the first chapter we go into them, they're in this life and death situation, but I found because I didn't know them, I was going into this completely like, these were obviously new characters, I've never read about them before, and suddenly I was supposed to care about them from like word one, and I didn't. I was just like, okay, but like, can we get like the story going at some point so we know what has led up to this point, and then maybe I will start caring for them. But then I didn't in the end. I just felt very disconnected from the entire time. So yeah, I didn't really care for them. Book 7 is Here I Am by Jonathan Safran Foer. This one was a tough, guys. This one, I'm actually really surprised that this was not a DNF for me, because I just struggled through this one. I listened to this on audiobook and it was just never ending, and it was so bad. Like, nothing happened in it. Everything fell apart in it. Like, I don't even know. Like, I can't even, like, if you were to ask me what the story was about, I wouldn't be able to tell you, even though I listened to it. I did, and it was fairly recently. It wasn't like that long ago that I listened to it, but I just hated it so much. And again, I don't know why I didn't DNF it. I think by the point, I think I kept waiting for it to get better, and when I got to the point where I knew it wasn't going to get better, I didn't have that much longer left. So I was like, I'll just leave it till the end and see, maybe it will change my mind at the end, maybe there will be a miracle. And there was no miracle. It was miraculous. So yeah. Another book here is When the Floods Came by Clare Morrall. This was a book that I actually buddy read with Harriet over at Harriet Rosie, and both of us were left really disappointed with this book. This is kind of supposed to be a post-apocalyptic book where this family is living in this flooded like England, and there's not much of a population, there's not a lot of young people left, and just like so much of the characters' decisions in this made no sense of what we were being told about the story. Like, just a lot of illogical decisions and a lot of boring storytelling. Like, this is a book that could have been so good. Like, the setting of it and the world building could have been brilliant, and just everything just went, like, it just all fell flat. It all just did not work out whatsoever. Things were brought in at the very end that just left me confused, left Harriet confused, so I know it wasn't just me. It was just nonsensical at times, and yeah, like, it could have been so much more. It had the potential to be great, and it really wasn't. Another book here I have is another thriller. So thrillers, I've read more thrillers this year than I have in any other year, and I've started, like, I think one of the first books I read of thrillers of the year I read was The Breakdown by B.A. Paris, which was unbelievable. And that kind of set a bar for the rest of my thrillers for the rest of the year, and none of them quite got there. Like, a lot of them ended up disappointing me because I was just expecting to be really thrilled and I wasn't. And that definitely happened with Best Day Ever by Rouda. This one was just mainly just the characters, and the character was just horrible. I didn't like following the story. He kept telling you everything he was going to do before he did it. He like narrated the entire story in a way that he was like, oh, I'm the best, look what I can do, look what I'm doing to my wife, I'm slowly making her like go mad, but I'm going to kill her at the end of the day, so that's okay. And I don't know, he was just an asshole, and I don't know whether we were kind of supposed to like him or kind of find him funny at any point just because he was so horrible and so crazy. Like, it was supposed to be one of those weird kind of reactions, I don't know, but I was just left like no, I really didn't like that book. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but yeah, it wasn't a great book. I wouldn't recommend it. And one of the books that definitely really disappointed me this year was one I thought I was going to love. I've had it on my bookshelf for like 2 years. I thought it was going to be a 5 out of 5 stars, and it wasn't. It was like 1 or 2 out of 5 stars, and that was The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein, which is like up here on my dog shelf. I still have it just because I really like the cover, and I have a little dog shelf with all my dog books, so it's on there. But this is about a dog, and the whole story is told in this dog's point of view, and I just hated the dog's voice. I hated the fact that this dog was so, like, he talked like a human, and he observed things like a human, but he observed things like a human in like the way some humans would, in like a very crude, very crass way, very vulgar at times. And while I was reading this, I realised that this is not how I like my dog narrated stories to go, if you know what I mean. I like a dog to have a little bit of innocence and a little bit of purity to it. So I didn't like the way this one was told at all. I liked it more in terms of a dog's journey kind of way, that kind of narration where, you know, the dog makes some of these funny observations about humans while still being really adorable. And yeah, I just really didn't like the dog's voice in The Art of Racing in the Rain, and it just really threw the whole story down for me. I thought the story was a little bit depressing as well. Like, actually no, the story was really depressing, and not because of what was happening to the dog, but with what happened to his humans for a while, and some of the stuff his human had to go through was just like really horrible. And really like distressing. So yeah, it wasn't the nicest story to read, I don't think. I just was left really disappointed because it was one I definitely thought was going to be a 5 stars. Like, it would have been on, if I'd done a 5-star predictions over the last 2 years, it would have been on it like 100%, but I was left so bitterly disappointed with it. So, but the only good thing that came out of it was I do know how I like my dog narrated stories from now. At least I do know that. So, you know, I guess every cloud has a silver lining, and that was the silver lining with this one. But yes, that is all my disappointing reads of the year. Please let me know if you've read any of these books, if you liked them or disliked them the same as I did, what your disappointing reads of for the year. I would really like to know. I'll be back at you next week with my favourite books of the year, but I want to leave it another few days just in case I do have a favourite book, which I think I already do because I'm reading a really good book at the moment. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys again next time.